Good morning. It is a Thursday morning. We've got wind advisories in Southern California. Those get dropped this afternoon. We've got dense fog advisories in parts of California. Those get dropped pretty soon. The high surf advisory, not much going on there, but the swells are still very large, especially Northern California. And we being most of California, stays dry for a while. You'll see that in the models coming up. But there's everything north of, say, Gualala, Point Arena. You guys are getting rain for a little while, and some significant rain. Atmospheric river, as you can see here, well, can you see it? I think you can. It's going into the Pacific Northwest. So here's Cape Mendocino, which I talk about so often, because that's sort of a dividing point sometimes between the haves and the have-nots for rain. In this case, you can see the jet stream or the atmospheric river or the moisture all going into the Pacific Northwest over a number of days. So they're going to have some significant rain up there, and they're going to probably have, get a lot of snow and and probably have some hydro issues, as they often do when you get an atmospheric river. But for the rest of us in California, it's easy going. It really is. Temperatures are going to be very spring-like. In the Bay Area this weekend, we're going to see 70s. Southern California, you're already in the 70s, but you'll get up into the mid-70s. This is the Los Angeles National Weather Service page. This is the dense fog advisory, those grays. That's going to get dropped. Dense fog advisory down here north of Long Beach North. And then the wind advisories, that's in brown. And the winds, which is very... wind advisory, if it hadn't gotten the rain you guys in LA and Southern California last week, it'd be a whole other story, right? Because of the wind advisories, dry conditions. The Palisades was a product of big wind, no fuel moisture. Well, the fuel moistures are up. And same in Northern California. So that's very, very fortunate. Dense fog advisory in the Salinas Valley and a small craft advisory offshore for the central part of California. Nationally, you can see there's a lot of cold. These dark blues, those are extreme cold warnings. So you're in Texas. These are areas that aren't used to extreme cold or cold for any of that matter. This is the lighter blues is still cold weather related. It's a cold alert kind of a thing, advisory, but these are free. These are cold temperature warnings. So that's a big deal. And then you see some freezing conditions here out in the Carolinas. So that's how the national map looks. In terms of rainfall, things are pretty mild at the airports. I always look at the major hubs. But the cold will slow you down for sure, especially in Chicago. But it's not, most of the extreme cold is further south. So back this up, this is the GFS. And the lines represent windy conditions, right? Isobars. If you're a backpacker, just think about contour lines on a topographic map. And so this would be, in this case, you would have your ridge line here, and you would have your valley here, right? This would be the mountain, this would be the valley, if you understand that. But you also just look for these lines getting close together, like this morning, and you see some breezy conditions up in Tahoe, breezy conditions down in Southern California, and these lines kind of stay pretty close to each other for a few days. We're also looking for rain. Here comes something. Okay, that's Cape Mendocino north. This is this Saturday night into Sunday, and that's a good looking rain. But you can see, again, there's a big line between the haves and the have-nots. And then, so you can see it just stays up there. So really, everything south of Ukiah is like, whatever, it's going to be springtime until we get to here, which is around March 4th. And this looks like an equal opportunity event all the way into Southern California. So our next model, the next chance for showers, the models are suggesting, is down here at Wednesday or Monday night into Tuesday. So we'll keep an eye on that. Will that happen? Some iteration of that will occur, right? It's just a matter. It's how granular can you get when you're out that far? So that's just the one of the things about models, right? You can only go, the further out you go, the more nutty it gets, or the more skewed it can become. So here is, I'm going to back this up. This is that accumulation map. I like this because it shows you over the next 8 to 10 days kind of what's going on. That's where the rain is, right? You guys, my friends up in Point Arena and Shelter Cove right? Look at that. That's some rain. And then everything south, it just stays dry, dry, dry until we get to around the 3rd and 4th, and then it loads up. And this is, somewhere around the 3rd or 4th, 5th and 6th, it looks like we get some pretty good rain, at least south to Mammoth, and some, this is pretty light rain for, ½ inch of rain in San Francisco. So the rainy period not really happening for us in terms of at least the model runs. That can all change. So dry. All right, this is how it looks in San Francisco. That's how it looks throughout much of the state today. We've got a lot of. We started off with cloud cover, fog down in the Laguna, fog in up further north up towards Oxnard, and then further north no fog. This is Tamalpais, Mount Tamalpais right here, Golden Gate Bridge right here, and that's the park, Golden Gate Park right there. And then these are the avenues. This is the Sunset District and the Richmond districts, inner and outer. And you can see a lot of people live out there. Used to be sand dunes. This is a good shot. This is from Alert Cam San Diego. I'm going to update my links page, by the way. I got a couple requests to do that. I haven't looked at it in a little while, but this is linked on there. This is that network of cameras that I use them for fire, but they do an awesome job for just awesomeness. I mean, look at that. So that's Mount Shasta, and you see a cap cloud forming on the mountain, and that's because the winds are blowing, hits the side of the mountain, goes up over 14,000 feet, gets pushed up the air, gets pushed up high enough that it's cold enough that it finds the moisture in the air, even though it's pretty dry up there, condenses it, turns it into cloud, hits, and then turns and comes down and dries out. So it's a wave, right? And so glider pilots love these because they'll ride these waves, these crests right there. That's the crest. And then they'll go from down here is sink. So you got to go from this crest to this crest. But that's when you get, and this is already forming up. If you look at this alert camera, this is Hammond Ranch. If you check this camera in a couple hours, which is kind of weird actually, because you're not probably watching this live, but those you can already see the saucer shape forming on top, and then that'll get pushed up. It'll get pushed up, and you're going to get some pretty cool lenticular clouds today, I suspect. And lenticular clouds, if you don't know what they are, look them up. They're awesome. They're just those lenticular, lens-shaped clouds that form at mountain ranges. And from that exact pattern, right, air rises, it cools, it condenses, it condenses, it makes a cloud, and then it comes back down, dries, right? Warms and dries as it comes down. So you get this clearer sector, but you get these stacks of like pancakes on top of the clouds. This is Doheny, which is at the base of Dana Point. When Dana Point I love because I always think of 2 years before the mass, Richard Henry Dana. I don't even know how he pronounced it. He was an author. We talked about him. He's 2 years before the mass, probably one of the best California pre-gold rush books ever. Richard was I think he was a law student at like Yale or Harvard, East Coast guy, didn't have good health. And back in the day, they would put you on a boat. And he was a well-to-do family and a very literate young man. He wasn't healthy on the East. And they associated that with, they realized, cities, and actually back then they go, cities aren't good for people. Isn't that interesting? And industrial revolution was coming just around the corner. And so they put him on a ship and he went up and down the California coast in the 1830s. So before the gold rush, when the Spanish were still running the missions. And they ran hides. The Spanish the leather business was huge back then on the East Coast. So on the West Coast, there was cattle. California was loaded with cattle. The missions had really proliferated that. And so they would have these hides that they would tan, and then they would bring them back. They'd spend months out here, just up and down the coast, stacking the holes full of hides, leather, and then going back. But anyway, he writes about it. And there's a part in there about the point, with Dana Point, which is the bluff. That's where they would throw, not often, but a couple of times the surf was too big to come in, so they had to frisbee the hides down to the boat, and they'd put it and they'd stack it in the thing. So it's probably one of the most interesting books in California history I've ever read. I know I mentioned that before. Okay, this is Ocean Beach. It's big. It's kind of spooky. Not giant, but it's just thumpy. See how it's just a line of water? You can't find a channel. It's just a thump. It's going to be bigger tomorrow in the next couple of days. It's kind of hovering in this weird 6 to 10 foot range, which is not no man's land, but it's, you know what it is? It's no bill land. That's what it is for me, because it means you can be out and it's a fun day, and all of a sudden, it's like 6 foot, 8 foot. That's okay. It's kind of scary there, but okay. But then a 12-foot set comes in. A 12-foot beach break set is spooky. It really is. So this is Salt Creek. You can see, oh, interesting. You can see the valley fog, right? We showed you the dense fog advisories. This will probably be gone in the next hour or so. These are folks out here surfing. There's still some pretty good swell down towards San Diego. This is, again, Mount Shasta because it's so beautiful. I will be back tomorrow, I think. I'm going to go down and see Dad, 98 years old. Yeah, thanks for joining up. I appreciate it. I'll see if I can get on that links page today, because I know that it's it needs to be updated. Okay, thanks for hanging in. I hope that helps. Let me know if you need anything.